Hello, my name is Johnny from Johnny's Book Reviews, a site to help inspire you guys to go read, so go read. Today I am reviewing Lamar Odom's book, a memoir, Darkness to Light. Does it pass my system or not? You'll find out by the end of this review. So for my book reviews, it has to pass three things. And I honestly am very tough with the two things, straight off the bat. So number one, it has to catch my attention the first couple pages. If it does not, then I'll actually put the book down and never touch it again. You actually have to be very picky with the books you read, and I am very picky. Now, if it doesn't catch my attention, I'll put it away and never touch it again. Now, if it does, that leads to the second thing, where it has to carry my attention throughout the entire book. Not 50 pages, not 100 pages, like Almost Gone. I stopped at 124. I did finish it, but it did take me almost 2-3 months to finish it. No, that doesn't pass my system. It has to carry my attention throughout the entire book. Now, if it does 1 and 2, it leads to number 3. 3 is it has to have a majority of positive things. So, for example, the author has to do what they're actually teaching. The author has to write well. The author actually has to have a good written dialogue. The story has to be powerful, the characters have to be good, etc. It doesn't have to have all those things, but it has to have a majority of positive things. If it passes 1, 2, and 3, then it passes my system and I'll consider it a good book. First things first is, did it catch my attention in the first couple pages? And to be honest with you, what caught my attention was actually the chapter after the pictures, which was chapter 21 on page 147. I read the first sentence in chapter 21. It said, I've had sex with more than 2,000 women. I was like, whoa, okay. What is he talking about? And so he talks about, from then on, he talks about his sex addiction and how it led to his cocaine addiction. And I was actually really curious about that. I knew he had a problem with those two things, and I'm really glad he touched up on that in this book. And I read, chapter 21 on. I read from the middle of the book to the end of the book. I went back this morning actually to read the beginning of the book to where I left off. Really good book. It talks about his basketball career, how he was actually a really good high school player. Almost went to the NBA draft directly from high school, which is unheard of now. The last player to do it was LeBron James. And just went to the Knicks, but then he decided to go to University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Didn't work out there, so he transferred to University of Rhode Island. And then he got drafted. He went to the Clippers, and then he went to Miami, and then he went to the Lakers, got a championship. And that leads into the parts where he talks about his cocaine addiction and then also his sex addiction, where there's a lot of stories where he had, he's with naked women, a lot of women, and time Khloe Kardashian actually married Khloe Kardashian for, I think, a couple years or maybe a couple months or something like that. But he doesn't mention that in this book. But he went into the hotel where he was at and knocked on the door. She barged in, and she found, naked people all over the place, rugs everywhere. It was just crazy, and I can't believe that that's where he went. And it does happen a lot, especially for these people who are like celebrities, who go into the limelight or go into being so popular and becoming a celebrity very fast. It does happen, and a great example of that is Justin Bieber going into celebrity status at age, 14, 15? New song, Baby, which has skyrocketed virally. And I think that really made him go into depression and also going into a spiral with drugs as well. But back to the book, the second thing is, did it carry my attention? And what carried my attention was talk about his addiction and how he recovered with that. Then, read the first kind of chapters because I knew what he was going to talk about. Being born and talking about his mom and how she died of colon cancer, and then his grandmother dying, and then how his journey through high school into leading into the basketball career. It was kind of cool. It carried my attention throughout the entire book. And the third thing is, did it have a majority of positive things? I mean, it did. The thing that I didn't like were two things. So number one is that he briefly touches up on his addiction. I thought he was going to go a little bit more in depth about, not provide like stories. Like he did provide a lot of stories with his addictions, but I thought he was going to provide a little bit more in depth of his addiction and how he went through it for those last couple of years. I think he did a really good job, actually. It was just kind of hard to discuss those two things when he's still trying to recover from it. And the thing is, like, with that, he just ends, the recovery part in just a couple pages. I mean, he does mention that he went to a rehab center for $100,000. Sometimes those work, sometimes I don't. But he went to a rehab center and he's just going back into the light. But it makes it seem like he should have put a little bit more emphasis on how he's recovering and did with therapy. That kind of helped him. And I thought a little bit more emphasis on that would have made the book a lot better. And the second thing, he writes the book. It's very, very fast paced. Like he goes from one topic to a next topic and then back to that same topic. It's just, that's from chapter 21 on. From the beginning of the book, I kind of in a order like that I could follow. But when he talks about his sex and cocaine addiction a little bit more, he goes into that, and then he goes into like an event like in basketball, and then he goes into that like addiction. I'm like, okay, maybe it would have been a little bit better if he kind of separated the two, but maybe not. I don't know. Comment down below what you think about that. But that's about it for this review. So I would say it does pass my system, but I wouldn't give it a high score. For Goodreads, so it's rating on a scale of 5, I gave it a 4. I might even lean toward a 3. It was good, but it wasn't that good. It did pass my system, basketball, and I really was curious about how to do or deal with those addictions throughout his NBA career. And I think those addictions actually impacted his career. I think it would have been a better basketball player if he didn't have those addictions. That really impacted not only his basketball career, but also his relationships with his family and that he had and his girlfriends that he had as well. Curious, honestly, like if he was ever high. I mean, he talked about marijuana. I'm assuming he was probably high of marijuana during a basketball game. I'm also curious, like, if he was ever high with cocaine or any other drug, ecstasy, like he talks about in the book. If he was high on those drugs during a basketball game. That's about it. Lamar Odom's book, Darkness to Light. It did pass my system. If you guys liked the video, like it. Subscribe to this channel as I'll do more nonfiction and fiction books over the year. My goal for this year is 52, maybe a little bit more, 1 per week. And also comment down below if you liked the book, if you didn't like the book.